I didn't mean to watch him, but something in his face stopped me cold that night. The sky outside our windows was low and restless, heavy with the kind of clouds that made you think of endings. I stood with a glass of wine in my hand, staring out at the dim streetlights, pretending. I didn't feel the weight of Jack's absence. He was gone again. Another trip, another excuse, another night in this house that never felt like mine. It was just me and Ethan. I heard a faint sound upstairs, not loud, but just enough to break the quiet. I thought maybe music, maybe footsteps. But it wasn't quite either. I told myself to ignore it, but my feet moved before I could stop them. The hallway was dark except for the soft golden spill of light coming from under Ethan's door. I should have knocked. I should have said something, but I didn't. I froze through the narrow opening. I saw him sitting on the edge of his bed, head bowed, a frame clutched in his hands. He didn't notice me right away, and I should have turned away, but I didn't. His face, it wasn't just sadness. It was raw, uncovered, like something inside him had finally cracked open. That was the first time I saw him like that. And something in me shifted when he finally looked up and saw me standing there. He didn't yell. He didn't even flinch. He just said my name soft like a question I knew. I should have walked away, but his voice kept me there. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. I didn't mean to interrupt. He looked down again, his hand tightening slightly around the photo frame. "It's fine. I just didn't expect you." There was something in his voice, flat but not cold, resigned. I took a step inside without thinking, my eyes flicking to the photograph in his lap. "Can I ask who's in the picture?" He hesitated, then turned it just enough for me to see a young woman smile back at us. Kind eyes, tired eyes. She looked like him, not just in her face but in the quiet weight she carried. "My mom," he said softly. "She passed when I was 16. I don't know why, but tonight she's just everywhere." His words struck me harder than theirs. I felt it not just in his voice, but in the way his shoulders curled in on themselves like he was trying not to fall apart. "You don't have to explain," I whispered. "You don't have to hold it all in." He let out a low laugh, bitter and sharp. "You say that like you don't do the same that stopped me." I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. He wasn't wrong. I hadn't realized he saw me that clearly. He looked at me, then really looked, and I felt it. The air in the room thickened slower somehow, charged with something neither of us had language. For his pain, my silence, the house around us too quiet for how loud it suddenly felt in my chest. I should have said something safe, something light to end the moment, but I didn't want it to end later. I sat alone in the living room holding my second glass of wine, like it might explain something, but it didn't. It just made the edges blur of the room of my thoughts of who I used to be. I couldn't stop thinking about him. The look on Ethan's face, that quiet ache he tried so hard to hide, it was familiar. Jack used to have that same sadness when we met, except he buried it in ambition. The kind of ambition that swept me off my feet, that made me feel chosen. He proposed quickly. I said yes, even quicker. I thought it meant forever, but forever with Jack became something else. It became schedules and silences, polished floors, empty dinners. He wanted control. I let him have it. I used to write stories, poems, little scraps of things that made me feel real. Jack called it a hobby, something I'd grow out of. So I did. I stopped writing, stopped asking for more, stopped recognizing myself in mirrors or photo frames, and Ethan came into my life during that slow fade. Just a boy, barely 18, still bleeding from the loss of his mother, already expected to be his father's perfect echo. He kept his distance. At first I tried to respect it, but even then I saw it how alike they were both trained to bury their feelings, both taught that softness was weakness. Only difference was, Ethan hadn't given up yet. He still had. Something inside him that fought back quietly, but it was there. That was what kept pulling me toward him. Not just his pain, but the fact that it hadn't swallowed him whole. Not yet. I couldn't sleep. Not because of the storm, but because of the silence. It was past 2 in the morning. The house was still. But my chest wasn't everything. Felt too quiet, too loud. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. I got up to make tea. Something warm, to hold, to distract myself as I reached the bottom of the stairs. I noticed the faintest glow from the living room. And then I saw him. Ethan was sitting on the couch, curled forward slightly. A half-empty bottle of wine on the table. In front of him, he didn't hear me at first. His shoulders were hunched like he was trying to hold himself. Together from the inside out. I should have turned around. Instead, I walked in. "Couldn't sleep either?" I asked softly. He looked up, startled at first, then nodded. "Number, my mind's a mess." I sat across from him, the lamp beside him flickered slightly. "Want to talk about it?" He hesitated. "Then my dad called tonight, said I should switch my major, said music isn't real life." I exhaled slowly. "Of course he did. Did you tell him how you feel?" I asked. Ethan looked down at his hands. What would be the point? He didn't ask for sympathy. He wasn't fishing for anything. He just said it like a truth he'd learned to carry alone. "You don't have to become him," I whispered. "You know that, right?" He looked up, startled. I could see it, something in him, shifting, something tightening and loosening all at once. "I don't know who I'm supposed to become," he said. "I feel like I'm not allowed to want anything for myself." I reached out instinctively, just my hand resting lightly on his. We both froze. His eyes dropped to our hands, then met mine again. Neither of us moved, neither of us spoke, but everything in the room changed. His fingers didn't move, but they didn't pull away either. Neither did mine for a moment. All I could hear was the soft hum of the refrigerator and the quiet clock ticking behind us, the kind of silence that doesn't ask for permission. It just stretches. "Madison," he said my name like a question, or maybe like a truth. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the way he looked at me, open, afraid, wanting, was the same way I had once looked at Jack before everything between us became conditional. "You make me feel," Ethan began, then stopped, eyes flicking down to our hands like I'm not invisible. That did it. That broke something in me. I'd been trying to hold together for too long. I leaned in, before I even realized I had. He met me halfway. Our lips touched softly. No hunger, just truth. A quiet question that neither of us knew how to ask, finally answered in silence. The kiss deepened. Not because we planned it, but because everything unspoken had been waiting for this moment to breathe. His hand moved to my cheek, gentle, unsure. I could feel him tremble, or maybe it was me. It didn't feel wrong. It felt inevitable when we pulled back. He didn't say anything, neither did I, but I rested my forehead against his, and for a long moment we just stayed like that, not speaking, just breathing. I woke up on the couch, a thin blanket over me, but nothing felt covered the morning. Light was soft and quiet, like it was pretending not to notice what had changed. Ethan was gone, and all I could feel was the echo of his hand on mine, the weight of his kiss still lingering like a whisper. I wasn't ready to speak aloud. I didn't know what to do, so I did what I always did when I felt unsure. I cleaned, I wiped. Counters that weren't dirty, rearranged pillows that didn't need fixing, tried to scrub the guilt out of my own skin until the doorbell rang. It was Lily, my best friend, the one person who always saw through me. She handed me coffee, took one look at my face and narrowed her eyes. You okay? I nodded too quickly. Footsteps on the stairs. Ethan. I froze. He barely glanced at me before grabbing his keys and muttering a quiet goodbye. But Lily saw everything. She turned to me once the door shut. What happened? I opened my mouth to lie. I couldn't. There's something going on between you two, isn't there? I couldn't speak. I didn't need to. Lily's voice softened. You know this can't last if Jack finds out, but she didn't have to finish because Jack walked in. Early, unexpected, his smile didn't reach his eyes. Work ended sooner than I thought. He looked at Lily, then at me, then around the room, like he was sensing the dust of something out of place. Where's Ethan? Out, Lily said quickly, but Jack's eyes were on me. Something cracked. You're hiding something, he said. No, I said too fast. His jaw clenched. You and Ethan. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I trusted you. The words landed like stones, heavy. Final, Lily slipped out quietly, leaving me in the quiet storm I had created. Jack stood by the window, cold, distant. If what I think is true, he said, then this marriage is over. He didn't shout. He didn't slam doors. He just left, and the silence that followed was worse. I didn't move for hours. I couldn't. Everything I'd buried had risen up at once, flooding me. My choices, my silence, my fault. When Ethan returned that evening, I was still on the couch. Jack knows I told him. My voice cracked. He sat beside me, careful not to touch me. What now? He asked. I don't know, I whispered. But I can't stay. Not here, not like this. He didn't stop me. Maybe he understood. Maybe he knew that sometimes love isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go. The next morning I packed a small bag. No plans, no goodbye, just a letter on the counter. I didn't look back. Ethan stood at the stairs watching. He didn't speak, neither did I, but his eyes said everything as I drove away. I didn't cry, not yet, because something in me felt strangely still. Weeks passed. I found a small rental near the coast, quiet, far from everything I started, writing again, not for anyone else, just to hear my own voice again. Then one day I found a letter in the mailbox. No return address, just my name. It was from Ethan, thank you. It read, you helped me find myself. I hope you find your own freedom too. I cried when I read it. Quiet tears, the kind that come when you're finally allowed to feel everything you were too scared to name. I tucked the letter into my journal, the one I'd started again, and I moved forward, not toward Jack, not toward Ethan, but toward me, the woman I had almost forgotten. I could still become if this story stirred something in you. You're not alone. Have you ever stayed too long, in the wrong place, or walked away when it finally mattered? Share your thoughts in the comments if you felt seen. Type, I'm still finding myself. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deeply human stories about desire, identity, and the quiet strength it takes to choose yourself. We'll see you in the next.